So I'm going to give Bernie about 3 sentences to say, well, as it did in the cartoon, oh, okay, what's the relevance of all of this, and where are we going next in our discussion?
Well, I couldn't ask for a better warm-up act than Charles, that's for sure, as far as stimulating. So I think what I'm going to do next is put things in the context of education and how this is actually happening. The kinds of learning that Charles is talking about is actually happening in schools. And give examples of those and kind of get deeper into the practice. I think that's something that many of the educators here will probably enjoy.
What does this mean for those of us who are in the classroom? What does it mean for those of us who are administrators? What does it mean for those of us who are citizens? I think that's the next part of this fascinating discussion.
It's a delight to be with you, and thank you, Charles, for that. Give Charles another round of applause for that. So now we're going to look at innovating learning, and learning to innovate. That's kind of the theme. 10 reasons why 21st century learning and the arts are essential. I'm going to try to connect that for you. So there's 2 themes that's going to run through this presentation. One is in the key of C, for all of you musically inclined, that's creativity. The other is in the key of E, and that's engagement. And I think the arts community and arts education has huge contributions to make in these areas of creativity, engagement, and learning. So that'll be a sub-theme. And I'm going to start with the 10 threes. We'll count them down while 21st century learning and arts education are so important. So the future, as Charles showed you, is already here. But so is the past. And one of the things that I've realized is that we all suffer, all of us, when we think about education, we all suffer from a mild disability called the rearview mirror syndrome. And when we think about education, for some reason, we think about the education that we had, right? And so we look at education through a rearview mirror. We think about education going forward as being the same as we were educated. That's probably not the best way to deal with looking at the future. So what I'm going to have you do is, in your mind, that part of your mind is a rearview mirror that looks at education the way we were educated. I want you to take that part of your mind and just kind of toss it away. Just get rid of it. Okay, just move that out of the way. Clear your mind and look straight into the future, because in fact, that's where all of our students are going to be living. Most of their lives they're going to be living in the future, not in our past. All right, so that's really important first. All right. A couple quotes about the future that I kind of like. This one here is kind of fun. I have no idea what this means. If you could explain it to me. The more and more I think about this, it's like a Zen koan, you know. The future ain't what it used to be. Okay. Second one. This one, Charles already covered, and I like this one a lot. And he explained very, very clearly how the future is exactly already with us, but just not very evenly distributed. And I think in all of your work in education, in schools, and the rest of the programs that you're involved in, you have the future with you, at least in part. So it's a matter of distributing that much more widely. And this one I like a lot because it involves every one of you to get involved. The best way to predict the future is to invent it and get right in there and invent the future. So, we are in a time of really great transitions, incredibly great transitions. It's a bumpy time in many ways. Just a summary of what Charles was talking about earlier too. This was what life was like in 1975. Who remembers 1975? Anybody? Oh yeah, good. I'm not alone. All right. So this was the ecology of your technology in your home in 1975, and this is indeed what was the output of that work, and it's been called the rainbow diagram. And it was pretty good for how many years ago was that? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. So the green area, 4 subjects, 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, plus a whole bunch of other core subjects, plus some 21st century themes like financial literacy, environmental literacy, health literacy, all important themes that cross-cut some of the disciplines. Surrounding that, there are 3 buckets of skills that will go into that, and below is the delivery system, support systems to deliver that kind of learning, standards and assessments, curriculum instruction, professional development, and learning environment. So this is the model that we evolved. And it took a lot of 21st century skills to get here. You saw that whole list of organizations. We had to have consensus on this whole thing. So it took us a year or more to come up with this list, which, by the way, I think you probably in our little exercise covered every one of these. Creativity, innovation, critical thinking and problem solving, communications and collaboration, we hit every one. The digital literacy, the information literacy, media, ICT, information and communications technology literacy, we mentioned. Flexibility and adaptability, you all mentioned that. Initiative and self-direction, social and cross-cultural skills, productivity and accountability, leadership and responsibility. So it's not very different than the list that you just generated. And this has been a really good motivation over the years for the states, all 50 states. And I think what's the number of states we have now that have kind of signed on to this framework at this point? Is it 16 or so states? You know, Charles? Yeah, have signed on. What's that? Yeah, 16. So the effort was to engage as many states as possible into this. I have my own version as well as so many other people do. And actually, the top 4 skills are pretty much agreed as kind of the critical ones, the 4 C's. See them there. And then I like to add a few more, which is cross-cultural and social fluency, career, civic, and learning self-direction, and this whole computing and digital proficiency. And the reason why I like to have 7 C's is that it allows me to do the new learning formula for the 21st century, which is the 3 R's times the 7 C's equal 21st century learning. Okay, so, and mathematically, check. Is it right? It's okay? Yeah, it does work. So that's in a nutshell where I think we have to go. That's the formula for learning for today and for the future. Now, to me, this model is looking a little bit old. It's got some problems in that it separates content from skills, and there's some difficulties that have been generated by this model. So, in the book that Charles and I have put together, we have an image of a kind of a new framework that we will eventually evolve to, which involves the whole learner in a whole environment in a learning framework. And this is what it looks like. So, at some point in time, we will say, when you learn, it's really hard to separate knowledge and skills and motivation and values and attitudes and beliefs and feelings. It's hard to separate those things out. They all kind of come together around learning. So let's put them all together and call it the whole learner in the center of the diagram. And the people most immediately around you in the learning process, teachers, experts, peers, parents, is in the next ring. The next ring is the whole learning environment, which could be classroom, school, home, library, studio. We learn everywhere. It's hard to stop learning. We're always learning. So why not call that the entire whole learning environment? And surrounding that are learning communities that one is involved in. All the aspects of your local community, museums, educational programs, all kinds of experiences that are in your community that are supporting your learning. And then that's within a learning society. And wouldn't it be great if the entire society was oriented toward learning much more than it is now? I just came back from Singapore just recently, and they're moving in that direction. The whole society really cares about learning. And wherever you turn, there's an opportunity for students to learn. So that's interesting. And then that's surrounded by the entire world. And we have access now through technology to the entire world and to be able to learn from anyone, anytime, almost anywhere. So this is kind of the future framework I hope we get to at some point in time. Okay. It's number 7. The digital natives are taking over. They really are. And Charles talked about the age structure of various different countries. Can anybody guess what some of the countries in the top line there? Or who has really good eyesight, because I can't see it. The names are up there. This is Egypt at the top. What is that? Not sure which that is. And a couple other, this is India over here, the third one. Yeah. And Brazil over here.
What's the red and what's the blue?
Oh yeah, the blue are males, the red is females. And each line is an age category. So you have different age bands. So the countries that Charles highlighted in his presentation are youthful countries that are suffering from youth unemployment, as Charles mentioned, and that's a cause for great deal of stress in those societies. This one here is Singapore. They're not having enough children. They actually have a social policy of encouraging having more children and having more dates. The government actually funds you to go out on a date so you get married. This is China. China is aging pretty quickly, and with their one-child policy, they're going to have to support a lot of older people. This one over here is the United Kingdom. This is the United States. Interesting pattern in the United States. Just a solid chunk across the different age groups. But it's also aging too. So actually we're not in as bad a situation as, let's say, Japan. That's Japan. And they are really aging fast, and there's not a lot of young people coming up in the chain to support them. So a lot about education is looking at the age pyramid of different countries. And in analyzing and looking at the demands from the net generation, we called a lot of things: digital natives, net generation, screenagers. I've heard one. I think my favorite one is the Homo sapiens. I thought that was one of the most clever, different species with growing up with mice and iPods and the rest in their hands. So what do they want? What do they want out of the education system? This is a study by Don Tapscott. Two studies actually, a long time ago, growing up digital and grown up digital. Here's what students want. They want personalized learning toward their particular needs, their particular passions, their particular interests. This is what they say. They want quick access to all the tools necessary when they need it, just in time, to do all the things they want to do: research, writing, projects, all the rest. They want to learn socially. And this is really a strong desire among all students. They want to learn together. Not entirely alone, maybe sometimes alone, but they want to network and collaborate. And they want to be playful, they want to do games, they want to have some simulations, and they want to be able to creatively express. This is a quick summary of a very large research study done by Don Tapscott. So it kind of goes along with the environments that you talked about too, the learning environments we need right now. So, key of E, engagement. Now, a few of you were here 2 nights ago to hear Arnie Duncan speak. Raise your hand if you were there. A few of you? Okay, yeah. And it was really interesting. He actually said the words, all children need to have 21st century skills, which kind of made me jump back a bit. And I want to show you a clip. When he was the CEO of the Chicago Public Schools back in time, some statements he made about what was important for children's learning, especially in an after-school situation in a program in Chicago. So let's just take a listen to Arnie Cree, Secretary of Education. Oh, sorry, we'll go right to that. I'll skip this because you already saw this from Charles, and I might come back to it. Let's listen to this first.
Keep our students interested in school, keep them motivated. We have to help every single child find their unique skill, their unique interest. So maybe it's dance, or drama, or computers, or working with other students and teaching and coaching. And After School Matters has provided that so that many that portfolio of options. Every student's not going to want to go to school, frankly, because they love biology and love trigonometry. But it might be for that after-school program.
So you just hit these drugs, but don't press too hard, because if you do, they'll break.
If young persons in our program, they are less likely to be truant. They have fewer course failures. Perhaps if they're not having a great success during the school day, they get success in the after-school program that reinvigorates them, helps raise their self-esteem, helps them feel good about themselves, so they show up that next day for school ready to learn.
Okay, so engagement is really important, and some of these aspects of learning are critical, said Arnie then, and probably would say now. These are the statistics, though. This is the study that Charles also mentioned, but to summarize it, out of 300,000 U.S. students that took this engagement survey, 65% said they were bored every day in class. 82% said the material was not interesting. 41% said it wasn't relevant, and 34% there was no teacher interaction. And as Charles showed you on the earlier slide, the positives, the most positive, engaging activities in school were discussions, debates, and projects. So we kind of know. Everybody seems to know the right things here. It's just a matter of getting it done. And I won't go into this in any great depth because Charles covered it extremely thoroughly, but the world is indeed getting flatter. Knowledge work can be done anywhere by skilled, connected workers. And creativity is absolutely at the top of the chart. I want to emphasize this. At least in the more developed countries, the more developed economies, it's the creative jobs that are going to be needed. And in fact, I don't know if many people know this, but there's probably close to 3 million jobs that are not being filled in this country right now, even in a time of huge unemployment. And the reason is we didn't prepare enough students to do this kind of creative work at the top. And all the rest of the work that we prepared students for is being either done outsourced to the lowest common bidder in the world or done by machines. That's the truth of the matter for the work that we're preparing. So when we talk about college and career readiness, you've heard a lot of that. We really have to do some work in changing what we're doing every day in school to prepare students for the real work that's there. So that's an important message that Charles covered quite nicely. Okay, number 5. We actually do know how people learn, and we're learning more and more every day. And I want to play an example. This is a math teacher in California, and he took on the ultimate challenge, which was to turn a typical textbook math problem into a 21st century learning experience. Pretty good challenge. That's Dan Meyer. And let's see what he did.
And I'll yield the floor here for a second to Einstein, who I believe has paid his dues. He talked about the formulation of a problem being so incredibly important. And yet, in my practice, in the US here, we just give problems to students. We don't involve them in the formulation of the problem. So, 90% of what I do, my 5 hours of prep time per week, is to take fairly compelling elements of problems like this from my textbook and rebuild them in a way that supports math reasoning and patient problem solving. And here's how it works. I like this question. It's about a water tank. The question is, how long will it take you to fill it up, okay? First things first, we eliminate all the sub-steps. Students have to develop those. They have to formulate those. And then notice that all the information written on there is stuff you'll need. None of it's a distractor, so we lose that. Students need to decide, all right, well, does the height matter? Does the side length matter? Does the color of the valve matter? What matters here is such an underrepresented question in math curriculum. So now we have a water tank. How long will it take you to fill it up? And that's it. And because this is the 21st century, and we would love to talk about the real world on its own terms, not in terms of line art or clip art that you so often see in textbooks, we go out and take a picture. So now we have the real deal. How long will it take it to fill it up? And then even better is we take a video of someone filling it up. And it's filling up slowly, agonizingly slowly. It's tedious. Students are looking at their watches, rolling their eyes, and they're all wondering at some point or another, man, how long is it going to take to fill up?